Welcome to brothers and sisters from across the world to the Steps to Perfection, our program to improve our Quran recitation skills and our Quran understanding on Ahlul Bayt TV during this holy month of Ramadan. Inshallah, as usual, we will start with a Quran recitation and then we will have some tips and advice, and followed by, inshallah, a recitation of our participants. We'll be today reciting from the beginning of the third juzu, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تلك الرسل فضلنا بعضهم على بعض منهم من كلم الله ورفع بعضهم درجات وآتينا عيسى ابن مريم البينات وأيدناه بروح القدس ولو شاء الله ما اقتتل الذين من بعدهم من بعد ما جاءتهم البينات ولكن اختلفوا فمنهم من آمن ومنهم من كفر ولو شاء الله ما اقتتلوا ولكن الله يفعل ما يريد. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة والكافرون هم الظالمون. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Today we will briefly touch on a part of the Quran aid, if you like, Quran recitation aid tools. And that is what is called alamatul waqf, the signs of stopping. Of course, we know that the Quran is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, the most trustworthy, the most honest, and the seal of the prophets, delivered this holy Quran to the nation, to the Ummah of Islam, and it was recorded and it was preserved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection. So the wording and the ayat are Allah's words. The alamatul waqf are not alamatul waqf, and in fact they could change from a copy which is potentially printed in Syria to a copy which is printed in Hijaz, or today's like in Mecca or Medina publishers, or from a copy which is printed in Iran. So alamatul waqf are the signs where it would help us to stop or not to stop throughout our Quran recitation. The objective or the purpose of alamatul waqf is to help us ensure that when we are reading Quran in a way which is contemplative, in a way that helps us think about the Quran, is that these alamatul waqf would aid our understanding, so that we do not stop somewhere where the meaning could change, or we do not attach two sentences or two phrases where again the meaning could change. So the idea is that when we are reciting Quran, and depending on the copy that we have, whether, like I said, where it's printed, usually there would be signs which are called alamatul waqf, or the signs of stopping. These are based on the understanding of the scholars or the committee who oversaw the printing of that copy of the Holy Quran. So alamatul waqf, as I said, are not divine and not godly defined, but they are based on the understanding of the ulama who would oversee the printing of the copy. However, they are extremely helpful if we follow them as reciters and as individuals in order to aid our understanding of the recitation of the Holy Quran. To the point where now it is pretty much unanimous. So you would find that if you take I don't have a survey, but potentially a grand majority of the copies, regardless of where they are printed, there is almost a unanimous decision on the majority of alamatul waqf right across the different ayat of the Holy Quran. And it is important that we familiarize ourselves with those alamat and what they mean. And the copy which is mostly available, especially to those who go to Hajj and return from Hajj, these are copies which are printed in Mecca or Medina. You will have generally a number of alamat. One is a little word called salah, so a little word on top of the ayah, which is salah. Another one which is ala, another one which is la, another one which is meme, but a meme which is kind of on its sideways rather than the meme with a right angle. And another sign which is the three dots. Now, like I said, this is not a divine, these are not divine symbols, and even the placing of these symbols is not divinely driven. This is based on the understanding of the individual ulama who are overseeing the printing of the Holy Quran, but they're very helpful. And like I said, it could differ from one print to another, but generally this is the majority of the Holy Quran prints which are available to us would have these signs. And there is no harm, of course, if tomorrow someone else would find an easier way to use a different type of signs, because like I said, this is just to help aid our understanding and our recitation. Generally, salah, sad, lam, and ya maqsura, little word on top of the ayat, on top of some of the words of the ayat. Salah, that would mean al-waslu awla, is that you do not stop in there. For example, we have an ayah that says, فَأَمَاتَهُ اللَّهُ مِئَةَ عَامٍ ثُمَّ بَعَثَهُ قَالَ كَمْ لَبِثْتَ. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed death upon him for 100 years. Then he was resurrected. This is about the story of the man who went to which we will be reciting in this page now, went to a village, and he wondered about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ability to resurrect the death. And in the ayah it says, فَأَمَاتَهُ اللَّهُ مِئَةَ عَامٍ ثُمَّ بَعَثَهُ قَالَ كَمْ لَبِثْتَ. You will see that on top of ثُمَّ بَعَثَهُ there is a salah, which means al-waslu awla. Why? Because the meaning will continue if you carry on with that. Towards the end of the ayah, وَانظُرْ إِلَى الْعِظَامِ كَيْفَ نُنْشِزُهَا ثُمَّ نَكْسُوهَا لَحْمًا. There is a jim. Jim means وَقْفٌ جَائِز. You have the option. You would like to continue or you would like to stop. وَقْفٌ جَائِز. You have the option, although stopping is good, but you have the option. You can by all means carry on. So we said salah and jim, and then qala. Qala means al-waqfu awla. You are recommended strongly to stop because the meaning would be completed better that way. For example, in the beginning of the same page, page 43, ayah 257 of Surah Al-Baqarah, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاؤُهُمُ الطَّاغُوتُ يُخْرِجُونَهُم مِّنَ النُّورِ إِلَى الظُّلُمَاتِ. It is better, there is a qala on top of the word ظُلُمَات, it is better to stop on that. أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Then qala is al-waqfu awla, you're strongly recommended to stop. Salah al-waslu awla, you're strongly recommended to connect to the next part of the ayah and not to stop. Jim is al-waqfu al-jaiz, which means you're free to stop or to continue, it's up to you. La, which means do not stop. So there are points in the Holy Quran which there is the la sign, which you should not stop because that really changes the meaning. And then, like I said, there is the meme, the sideway meme, which is called al-waqful lazim. You should really stop in here. Otherwise, you would be changing the meaning by connecting to the next part of the ayah. And finally, the three dots, which come in pairs, and it tells you that you can stop at one of these three dots. And the most obvious example is in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. Alif Lam Mim ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. أو ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى. أو ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. You have the option to stop at one of the three dots. This is a quick summary. Of course, I would encourage our dear brothers and sisters to follow up this matter more and familiarize themselves. Now, we would like to listen to our dear brother Hussein, who would be reciting, inshallah. Hussein, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. ألم تر إلى الذي حاج إبراهيم في ربه أن آتاه الله الملك إذ قال إبراهيم ربي الذي يحيي ويميت قال أنا أحيي وأميت قال إبراهيم فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأتي بها من المغرب فبهت الذي كفر والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Ahsan, beautiful recitation. Barakallahu feek. Few points. قال أنا أحيي, and not أنا أحيي وأميت. In the middle of the ayah 258. قال أنا أحيي وأميت. This is called imala. It's another ruling, but generally we do not say ana, we say ana. أحيي وأميت. The other thing is actually the word before that and two words before that and the word after that. إذ قال إبراهيم ربي الذي يحيي ويميت. يحيي ويميت. So even though there is one ya, this should be recited as if you have two ya. إذ قال إبراهيم ربي الذي يحيي ويميت قال أنا أحيي وأميت قال إبراهيم فإن الله. Okay, need to be careful of that because there is one ya written, but actually the way it should be recited, because of the sign next to it, we should recite it as يحيي ويميت. فأتي بها. فأتي, we do not say فأتي بها, we say فأتي بها من المغرب. فأتي بها من المغرب. We keep it short. أحسنت for saying thank you.
Thank you.
Yasser. Do we have Yasser? Is he still with us? Okay. We may have lost the connection to Yasser. Mehdi, can you carry on from where Hussein left? عليكم السلام.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها قال أنا يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها.
قال أنا يحيي.
قال أنا يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها فأماته الله 100 عام ثم بعثه قال كم لبثت قال لبثت يوما أو بعض يوم قال بل لبثت 100 عام فانظر إلى طعامك وشرابك لم يتسنه وانظر إلى حمارك ولنجعلك آية للناس وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها ثم نكسوها لحما فلما تبين له قال أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أحسنت. وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها. وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها ثم نكسوها لحما. Also we say أو كالذي مر وهي خاوية على أو على عروشها قال أنا يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها. Some lightness. We can say موتها and or we can say موتها. It's the latter. موتها. موتها. And then we can say موتها or we can say موتها. موتها. أحسنت. فأماته الله. The same thing. We need to bear in mind this lightness in some of the letters. And I draw the attention of the viewers and to you, brothers and sisters, that you would read about al-istifal wal-isti'la. It's a ruling which is not very difficult, and it would be useful to read about it. So it looks like we've lost the connection with our dear brother Yasser. Do we have him? No. And how about brother Mustafa? No, it looks like we've lost the connection to both of them. Okay, that's fine. We will take this opportunity to carry on with the next page, inshallah, until our dear brothers join us. And I would ask the viewers to follow up with us also to follow up with our dear participants, because on many occasions, the feedback that they would receive would be helpful for everyone else who could be listening and joining us. So I will now continue that page, which is the beginning of Ayah 260 of Surah Al-Baqarah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ قال إبراهيم رب أرني كيف تحيي الموتى قال أولم تؤمن قال بلى ولكن ليطمئن قلبي قال فخذ أربعة من الطير فصرهن إليك ثم اجعل على كل جبل منهن جزءا ثم ادعهن يأتينك سعيا واعلم أن الله عزيز حكيم. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم. الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله ثم لا يتبعون ما أنفقوا منا ولا أذى لهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى والله غني حليم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى كالذي ينفق ماله رئاء الناس ولا يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فمثله كمثل صفوان عليه تراب فأصابه وابل فتركه صلدا لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. These 2 pages, brothers and sisters, that you are joining us, these 2 pages that we just read are, of course, the entirety of Quran is amazing and mesmerizing. But if we understand even the basic meanings of these 2 pages, it is painting a vivid picture of a number of topics, very summarized, very concise, but incredibly beautiful. I will not, probably don't have the time to go through the ayat in more details, but it is amazing in the way that Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran describes certain scenes and certain topics, which makes it really powerful and effective in our understanding. So in the previous page, when we talked about Ibrahim alayhi salam and how he was conversing with the tyrant of his time, most likely to be Namrud, when Namrud said that I am, Ibrahim first said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives life and takes away life, gives life, yuhyi wa yumit, and decrees death upon the living. So that tyrant said to Ibrahim, well, I can do the same. I can bring a man and say, okay, I will let you go. So I've given him life. I can bring another man and say, and kill him, and I would have decreed death upon that man. So Ibrahim alayhi salam beautifully responded to him. He said, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my Lord, brings the sun from the east. Now, why don't you bring the sun from the west? فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. So he was gobsmacked, that who disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of learning that we can pick up from a very short 3 lines of the Holy Quran. The next ayah talked about the individual, as I said, who went to a village. They say it could be an individual called Uzair, and he went to a village. He saw this village, which was an old village, and he was really surprised. He was a believer, but he thought of himself, he thought about, how are we going to be resurrected once we are dust, once we are dead and have been dead for a long time? How is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to resurrect the death? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran that it was decreed upon him a certain type of death, or temporary death, which lasted 100 years. And after 100 years, he became alive again. So it's some kind of unconsciousness, or some kind of coma, or no, simply some kind of miracle by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where his body laid completely in the state of a very similar state to death. And then he was given life again, and he went back, and he was surprised of what had happened to him, and when he realized what had happened to him. Then the ayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing Ibrahim alayhi salam, the great prophet of Allah, by those birds, 4 types of birds, that chop them up and then put a part of each on a hill, and then calling them to rise alive again. And finally, the ayat end with the description and the principles of giving in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how